Okay, so Donna, you've been getting gang stalked and harassed for many years now. And, you know, we've talked about how you've been hit by several cars, uh, dozens of cars, and you can't even leave your house without your neighbors following you around. There's police cars, fire trucks. Uh, it looks as though every single angle of the neighborhood you live in is surveillancing you and harassing you. You know, can you explain a little bit on how this started and how it's led up to where you are now?
It's really hard to say when it really started. I could say when it got really heavy. Um, it got really heavy when I was in New York. Um, and it was after I filed for divorce, and I had 3 consecutive car accidents. The last one was a truck with a push bar, which was very suspicious, and did some damage, bad damage to us, and 2 kids were in the car. Me and my best friend and the groceries were all, we were all over the place. Then I had the gas stove blew up in my house, and then the oil burner was backdrafting while we were sleeping, me and my younger son. And so the plumber came, and I had to sign a paper that I'd have to leave the house if I couldn't fix the way that oil burner was backdrafting in the house. So I decided to leave. I ran for my life to the other side of the United States. When I got here to Florida, I got my first apartment. I had my daughter was an infant and newborn, and I was working at the hospital. And this guy moved in next door. Within a month later, I got pulled over. They took my car, the way they do the tags here. After 30 days, they could take your car. So they took my car. I was crying. I called up the babysitter. She went out to the car. I put my daughter down in her crib. I turned around, and there was a guy standing in my closet with gloves on.
Wow.
Scream in my daughter's closet. I was screaming my head off. I walked right past the tow truck chain hanging from the main beam that he climbed through the attic vent. So normally I would have been at work, and there he was. He knew my name. I saw that he went through my legal papers in the metal box in the living room. And nothing else was disturbed other than a lot of wire on the kitchen table, lots of wire. And I kept asking the police about it. They charged him with burglary. So when I look back now, the cops were all in on it. They were going to wire up my apartment. That's what that was. But I didn't know at the time. So it followed me. It just absolutely followed me everywhere I went.
Mm-hmm. And okay, so it's been following you after it began. It's been following you everywhere you went, and that sounds like the same exact thing that's happened to me. I didn't even know what gang stalking was. I had never heard of it. I read a blog one time years ago that mentioned it, but I never really heard of it beyond that. And I did some conspiracy research. I got set up to be killed at Motel 6 in Hollywood, California. And uh, somebody tried to, the guy I did interviews with, he tried to trick me into taking my interviews down. He set me up to have me killed. And then I put my interviews back up. I got away. I came back to Norton Shores, Michigan, Muskegon, Michigan area, and I started posting videos about how he was a Freemason and how he showed me he was a Freemason, all that stuff. And next thing I know, all my neighbors were gang stalking me. People were in the neighborhood I hadn't seen before gang stalking me. And I couldn't go anywhere without being gang stalked. The North Shores Police Department was in on it. The Muskegon County area, all the stores, everybody was in on it. And I couldn't believe what was happening. And then I had got set up. I got framed by a family that was gang stalking me. Um, and so I couldn't believe all these people around the country that were saying the same exact stuff. And now there's concentration. We're finding out there's concentration camps all over the country, FEMA camps all over the country. Like, where do you see this going? Do you see this mutating and turning into something much worse, or do you think it's pretty much gonna stay the same?
Oh no, I believe we were the guinea pigs. I know I was certainly the guinea pig, and like the predictive policing program, I believe I was the guinea pig for that very much. When I read the threat assessment 1 through 5, that's why they were trying to make me look like a criminal, so they can keep the money flowing, and so they can. That's how they're getting their technology off of innocent American citizens, and a lot of them don't even know that they're being gang stalked. So I think that the truth is starting to come out to the surface. It's not quick enough. Now they're going to have contact tracing and medical martial law coming. They're setting up the checkpoints to the major roads across the U.S. No, I think it's going to be everybody now, and the people that we were trying to tell them about this, because it wasn't them, they ignored it or didn't want to help or didn't want to be a part of it. They're going to experience all this now with the contact tracing, and it's basically gang stalking on a higher level. Medical martial law is much worse than any other martial law. So it's much more confining and restricting. So people have no idea what they're about to experience.
Right.
The money is not going to help them at all.
And I've noticed this is one of the things I noticed, that like 50 years ago, about 50 years ago, even longer than that, but you can go back 50 years ago and you can see how in areas in like the Deep South and the black communities, people got gang stalked by the Ku Klux Klan. It was definitely a different flavor of gang stalking. It wasn't the same stuff happening, but the generalization of being stalked by a group was happening, and people were being harassed. Um, After 9/11, it seems like now middle class and upper class Caucasian people are being harassed. They weren't before as much. You didn't really see Caucasian people being.
Well, yeah, but see, there's a misinterpretations in the black and white issue as far as I'm concerned. A lot of people don't realize that Europeans from Europe that were poverty stricken and their families died and they were left alone. The children, the family, people that were left alone and didn't have family members around, they were to serve the middle class and wealthy. They were enslaved. They were.
That's true.
And then. Absolutely. They were enslaved just as much as the blacks were and treated the same. They weren't treated any better. Maybe some of the upper class that had, the people that were in charge of the house were treated somewhat decent. But those that were below them were treated just as bad, terribly. They didn't eat. They were famished. If you saw the pictures of them, if you really researched. So I find it upsetting that But however, like you say, the Ku Klux Klan and different groups trying to suppress the black man back then was very dominant. They didn't because they didn't want them to rise up. They didn't want to deal with that, because they had complete control over that segment of the population at that time, But you have to understand, while that was going on, which was horrific, I do agree, mostly Europe and people that came over from Europe that were indentured slaves too were treated really bad in the same way. A lot of them were starved. Some of them starved to death, beaten to death. All of it. It's awful. It's terrible what goes on.
Right. And one of the things that I see is that this is kind of starting off like the Soviet Russians. Before the in Russia, you had the Russian royal family that was running Russia, and then the Soviet communism took over, and then in Germany you had Germany as it was, and then the Nazis took over. And this gang stalking stuff reminds me of that. It reminds me of foreign countries who weren't perfect, but they at least had more freedom, and then they were taken over by a dictatorship. And this is what it reminds me of. And this is following 9/11, and people are being gang stalked and targeted for no real reason at all. I've met people. I met a 16-year-old girl from Canada, and she was targeted with gang stalking just for Googling stuff about 9/11 being an inside job. And I've met several other people who told me that they were gang stalked at the exact same time they were Googling stuff related to conspiracy research. And so this is turning almost into a thought crime epidemic where you're being targeted just because you think differently than what the mainstream media is perpetuating how you should think. You're asking questions, and you're not even, these aren't even people who verbalized their thoughts and went on YouTube or went on the social media and created blogs or any of that stuff, or went out and passed out flyers or did lectures. These are just people who were thinking natural thoughts that there's something wrong, there's something to be looked into, and they were researching, and they got targeted. And so this is occurring at a massive level. There's way more people being gang stalked now than there was 10 years ago. If you look at YouTube and you look at the social media, there's an outpour of new people coming forward, and they're getting young. They're getting younger and younger and younger and older and older and older. Usually, it was middle-aged people who were being targeted. Now you're seeing elderly people and even young people. There was a.
And I feel as though the elderly they want to get rid of. They're no use anymore. And the very young is if you research Tampa Bay Times, Pasco Sheriff creates futuristic program to stop crime. The whole community is suing the sheriff's office in Pasco County, Florida, because they have this article. You can read it. They went into the upper senior, junior, and high school, and some of them were in 21, I think was the oldest. And they charged them with ridiculous crime, insignificant things. And then they started targeting them and their whole circle. And so they oh my goodness, their family members and their friends were being targeted severely. And so the community is now suing them for their inhumanitarian deeds. But I will say that they're going younger, and this was my point to say, because they want to read the brain algorithms. The sooner that they start reading them in a person's life, the quicker they can determine a crime, because their thought pattern will change, and they'll be able to, the computer will pick it up, the AI will pick it right up. And that's what they want. That's what they want everybody in the future to hook up to. This is predictive policing. This is the new system, the new AI system. It's also with social credit scoring. It's also with, facial recognition, iris scan. It's all a new system of living. It's the new world order. And that's where we're going with this very rapidly.
Right. Because I remember, getting contacted by a 19-year-old girl in Texas, and I told her to send me her phone number, and I never heard back from her. But she said she was being gang stalked. Then that 16-year-old Rio was being gang stalked. Then even there was a 12-year-old girl who contacted me and said she was being gang stalked. And so it seems like there's a push to get younger and younger females. A lot of times younger females. It seems like way more women are being gang stalked than men. And during my time of doing all the interviews I've been doing after my conspiracy research when I got gang stalked, I've interviewed dozens and dozens and dozens of people, and I've spoke to about 200 people altogether over the phone who've been gang stalked. There was even a woman named Brendan White who came and visited me, and she was being targeted, and I saw her being targeted when she came up here, and she was being gang stalked pretty bad, and I tried to communicate with her and show her, how I do it, how I pass out flyers, how I get through it, and she was being gang stalked so bad she just left. You know what I'm saying? She didn't like we got into an argument. We got into an argument, and she just left. I think it was the energy weapons that were hitting her. She couldn't even think straight. And so this gang stalking, it looks like there's almost a mutation of humans. It looks as though if the New World Order or the Freemasons or the Illuminati, whatever you want to call it, it looks as though if people don't fit into their little paper thin version of how they want Americans to be, how they want humans around the planet to be, then they just throw them over to the gang stalking stuff. If they don't kill them, they put them in the gang stalking program, so to speak, and then they harass them and ruin their life. So it's just like there's all these people out there who are researching, trying to find out more information, and they're under attack. You know what I mean? It's almost dangerous to even be alive right now.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, I believe that when they put you on that, whether it be a terrorist watch list, I believe that when you're on that, they can pull you for medical experimentation if they want. They can pull you for research and development for new technologies. It all depends on what they pull you for. If they don't want you around, they're gonna hit you with cars and try to cause a fatal accident.
Right.
And I've had all of this done to me. I have documented proof. I plan on showing. It shows where I went in to the local cancer center. I was told I had cancer in my MRI. Came back stating I had cancer for the second time. I agreed to go in the hospital. Dr. Chan gutted me like a cow for a biopsy, people. Get this. Was I naive? I was in the hospital for a week. They treated me really bad. And she came in the bathroom after and said I didn't have cancer. So I was so happy and elated about that. I went home, went back to work. About 8 years later, I had a major car accident. I get wheeled into the ER. I look at the x-ray. The x-ray says linear metallic density overlapping the abdomen, no spleen. I had a follow-up PET scan. It said my spleen was surgically resectioned and removed. I Googled linear metallic density, got on the internet, asked anybody if they knew about it for 2 years. I finally got a response from a scientist who sent me the research papers. And it's exactly what, same as my x-ray, explaining the colleges and the countries that are involved in the research. Linear metallic density, if you Google it, it's internal acupuncture, very popular in Korea, where Dr. Chan is from. She went right back to her country after my surgery, so I could not contact her. Internal acupuncture is known as gold threading. It's the highest can do it. It sends and receives signal. That's how they control the pain. The funny thing is I've been living in excruciating pain probably around that time and ever since. So. Right.
So we're, definitely. So we're at about 20 minutes in. We said we were going to do a short interview this time. How about we put this out and we come back at a later date?
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.